Welcome back to another episode of the Real Life Caddy Podcast. It's episode 137. Zabbo, good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here. Good to be back.
It's a very early morning, isn't it?
It is. It's a lot earlier than we've ever done before. This is interesting. Let's see how this works.
What time were you up this morning?
Well, for my first job, I was up at about 3 a.m. We'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, I had a little work to do at 3 o'clock in the morning.
What do we have for the listeners today?
More great caddy stories. We had corporate golf that was back in town and got some gems. One of I think this guy, he's going to be on the podcast in the future, but this story could top most of the stories we've ever told on here. It sounds almost made up. It's so good.
Beautiful. Absolutely love that. Anything else to look forward to?
Everything to look forward to. Yeah, we just finished our last major of the year. Hopefully we can solve this Live PGA debacle and they come to the table and we can see some real golf played next year.
I'm going to kick off.
Okay. Well, you're chomping at the bit here.
I'm chomping at the bit, right?
Let's go.
About a month ago, I'm at the big course and I got a job. I can't remember who I'm working for. Oh, yeah, I do remember, actually. I was carrying for Ryland, the dog walker.
Oh, yeah.
Just a single. Mm-hmm. And we end up with this woman. She's of Eastern European descent. So she's in her 50s.
Mm-hmm. So she's just randomly paired with you?
Yeah, it's her and her two cretin sons.
So you're just doing a single? And
I'm just doing a single for Ryland, just a nice, easy day, basically a day off, as you know. We get paired with this lady and her kids, and it's obvious, you can just tell the story. As soon as she opens her mouth and she says, "Hello, my name is Lindsay, how are you?" And I was like, "Oh, Czech Republic?"
Yeah.
Nice, or something like that. And she'd obviously married money.
Mm-hmm. She lives in the States? Or?
They live over here.
Little catalog order from her husband. And
yeah. So it's, but she's, the husband was nowhere to be seen, but she's with the kids. Straight off the bat, I think they're like 15 and 17.
Oh, jeez, right at that ripe age where they're just super polite and friendly, aren't they?
The younger one was actually, he was quite nice. But it was his birthday, so they come out to the resort for 4 days of golf just to celebrate his birthday, which
without dad, yeah,
nice. And straight away, the oldest one, he wants to play the tips.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
First one ends up somewhere in someone's bedroom on the right hand side.
Sounds
Next one
right.
is far into someone's bedroom on the left hand side.
Oh, here we go.
We go through the motions. I'm having a decent laugh with Ryland talking away, and early on, we're caddying with a guy called Logan.
Yeah, Logan,
nice lad. And
wait, so the family has a caddy.
He's caddying for the three. He's doing four.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
So there was several things that happened, but these were the kind of kids where when they were out the hole, they were done, and everyone else is trying to putt. They would just drop the ball and then just start chipping. So I'd be down reading a putt and then.
So their etiquette wasn't all there.
Shocking, absolutely shocking. But the balls are flying all over the place, and it's like, hold on, boys, come on. But they were both at it. So they ADHD or something where they couldn't sit at peace.
Spoiled rich kid syndrome, yeah.
Might be that, yes. We get to around about early in the back 9, 10, 11. I think it was 11. And the older one was just chopping around. You know what I mean? He's like 115 over par. And he doesn't want to play anymore. I'm done. This game sucks.
I've had enough.
And he's like, I thought this place would look prettier than it does.
Oh, he was dogging the big course.
He was dogging the course.
That was the problem. The course just wasn't up to his standards.
And then he's sitting in the back. He's sitting in the car with his feet up because he's got a migraine, right? So he's like, I'm done. So that's fine.
I have a migraine. I'm not going to play.
And we're walking off the back of the 12th green, and the younger one, he shouts, "Hey, mom!" and the mother looks over and she goes, "What is it?" And he goes, he looks at Logan and he obviously forgets his name.
Yeah, of course. Not that he remembered it to begin with, but yeah.
There's this beautiful 2 seconds of where the kid's looking at Logan trying to remember his name. Yeah. And he goes, "He's got the same birthday as me."
He's got the same birth. Logan has the same birthday.
Same birthday.
Wow. Was it the day he was caddying because he was celebrating his birthday? Was it the same day?
I don't think it was that day. It was the day before or the day after.
That hilarious.
That was the only synergy he had with the caddy altogether.
Well, at least he found some common ground.
Go on about another hole or so, and all of a sudden you'd think someone had died. They're all on their phones, and it's quite a traumatic situation. And I said to Logan, I says, "What's the problem?" And he says, "Well, I guess there's a plumbing issue at the house in Geneva."
Oh, no, not the house in Geneva. Of all houses, not the one in Geneva.
So the boys are all upset because they're struggling to get hold of a plumber. There's a leak at the house in Geneva.
Can't let that thing go on too long.
So there you go.
That's
how the other half live.
Yeah, I mean, my house in Geneva is kind of airtight. I don't have plumbing issues. We have recent plumbing, but I don't know about you. But
you always have a guy on hand.
I do. I have a guy in Geneva that just in case,
You'd mentioned that corporate was back in town.
Oh, corporate was back, and this corporate group has been coming for 40 years. We've talked about them before on this podcast, and the last 5 or 6 years, I've had the same guys, one of the upper guys in the company. And, this year is a little different. This group is it's an all walking group, all carrying group. And as some of our listeners know, we have this new machine out here called the Ellwee. And he gets in the first day. And, I look at the Ellwee, I look at him, I'm like, hey, Lee, they got this new machine. I know you guys are all walking. He's like, well, it's a practice round. It's not really the tournament. Why don't you take it today? We'll see how it works out. And I'm like, perfect. So have a nice little pleasant round at the Ellwee. And I'm thinking,
the backbone on you though to do that in this group.
That group, I know.
The stones on you, Zabbo. That's shocking.
And then I saw, I was like, the head of the company, I know he's going to be against it. And what happens the next day? Ellwees are banned for the group. Nobody can use them. Pretty crazy. But it was good to have Lee back in town. He was back for 2 weeks. Lee gets in his head sometimes. He's a decent player. He's kind of always struggled a little bit with the putter. The putter this year completely left him. And then you were kind of witness to that. You're like, it was pretty fun. It completely left him. And, I have typically 6, 7, 8 rounds with Lee. And then this year there was a little break in between. And I'm thinking, I got to hook Lee up. There's a pro that, I've taken some lessons with. Streamland's worked with, Larry Fitzgerald's worked with. He works at the
whole crew, huh?
The whole crew,
exactly. the whole family,
the gang. But anyways, he's a really good teacher, and I'm thinking Lee, he uses cross-handed grip. I said, Lee, you haven't made one putt 3 feet and in, you haven't, or out 3 feet and out, you haven't made one putt. I mean, you just change cross-hand, change something drastic's got to change. And I'm thinking, I need to hook him up with this guy. So Saturday rolls around, it's one of his off days. I get a phone call from this pro, and I see his name pop up on my phone. I'm like, wow, what's this about? He doesn't usually call me. He goes, hey, Mike, I'm here in the putting studio with your friend Lee. I'm like, perfect, that's what he needs. And Lee got a new putter and kind of had it figured out for
20 minutes.
Well, he had it figured out for a round. He actually put a really good round together, and I was proud of him. He played really well. And then we played with you the next day, and it was back to Lee. It was pretty funny. That was actually a funny loop, too. We had fun on that one.
I think the problem with that one is that it was contagious. I actually, the first time I saw him miss one, I thought he was having a stroke. I really did. I thought, we need to call an ambulance here because it wasn't even the yips. It was worse than that.
It was bad, but he did have it solved, and I have faith that Lee's going to get it together. I mean, he got a new putter. He got a longer putter that he's anchoring against his arm. You can't anchor it against your body anymore, but anchoring against his arm, and it's coming around. It's coming around.
Well, I know he listens.
He does listen. He's a dedicated listener.
My advice, Lee, would be to quit the game.
No,
I'm just joking. No, speed it up.
Don't listen to G.
He takes too much time. You take too much time over the putts.
He is not the fastest.
But it's contagious because you went to play golf in between. And
wait a sec. This is the Real Life Caddy podcast. We're not talking about golf relating to caddies.
Well, I know you're no longer a real life caddy.
I'm no longer a real life golfer, that's for sure.
Tell the listeners about how your little match went, your qualifier.
Oh God! So I, as listeners know, I am a member at the range out here that I hit balls at quite frequently. I don't really play too much, but there's a tournament every year at the Wee course that comes around in August, and you got to qualify for it. It's all gross. And at one point, I was a decent golfer, and I've been hitting balls all the time. I've been feeling good at the range. I haven't been playing at all.
Oh, I was hitting so well at the range.
I know. I'm that
one
guy.
Of those guys. You're that guy.
Exactly. So I was, about 2 weeks before the actual qualifier, I signed up for the qualifier. I was like, you know what? Let's get out there and play. So I played Del Monte where the qualifier was, and then I played another round at the Wee course with my wife, and I actually played well there. Played disastrous at Del Monte. I was like, and that's where the qualifier was. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to withdraw. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to put myself out there and get embarrassed. Not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I kept practicing, and I was hitting the ball good, and I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I'm just going to play and see what happens. You need to shoot about 75 to get in. I was like, I can go out there and do that. And went out there, birdied the first hole, feeling really good, and Was feeling really good till about 3 when I 6-putted on 3. It was yeah.
You see what you did to him, Lee? I blame you, Lee. I blame that. You watch that for 4 or 5 days, and then you go and do that, maybe longer, 7, 8 days, and then you go and do that 6-putt.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. Well, you know that green. That green is severe, and I got.
Well, I know the green, but it's 6-putt.
Hit a bad drive, chipped out. So I had like a 30-footer for par. I rammed it 2 feet by, and it was sideways to the hole. So it was like 2 feet. It was essentially a tap in, but it was like a sideways tap in. So I'm like, I'll be firm inside the hole. A little too firm, missed it on the high side, lipped out 10 feet, and then I did that 3 more times back and forth. It was.
Since when has a 2-footer been a tap in?
Well, it isn't that corporate group. We'll get to that too. But anyways, I got it back together, and I birdied the 9th hole. I was, I had a 9 on that hole. I was 5 over. I shot 6 over on the front. I figure, I shoot a little 3 under on the back. I'm in. Lip out a 10-footer for a birdie on 10. Miss about a 3-footer on 11 for birdie. 3-putt that hole, and it was game over. Downhill from there, and it was atrocious. Doubling, tripling. I had a 9, 2 8s. It was bad. Ended up shooting a big number, 91.
You have become delusional like the people we caddy for.
Well, that's why I gave up the game. I'm back to caddying. Happy to be caddying again.
It was actually a very amusing thing that you mentioned when we were with your boy Lee, and this corporate group, to say there's any rules, there's always a tournament, it's a joke.
Oh, it does become comical at times with the things people say, and I know what you're going to say. This was pretty funny.
So if the listeners can imagine this, we're just out there. There's some serious golfers, and then there's guys that are play once a year. They only ever play when they're out here. So they're drinking cocktails, having fun, and everything's good. Oh yeah, pick that up. We'll give you a 4. I'm thinking a 4. You were 5 off the tee.
Yeah, exactly.
And we get to hole 7. So the previous 6 holes, there's been some legit par for birdies and some legit stuff, but the majority of it's not. A 6-footer's good. You're saying that a 2-footer's a tap in, so I guess that's where it's coming from.
Yeah.
There's one lad on the 7th, the par 5 at the wee course, and he's out to the right-hand side, but there's ground under repair.
Yeah, a little roped off area.
So he asks, where should I drop this? which is comical because, he's taken 3 mulligans he's put it in the water, he's dropped it back, and you're like, well,
where should I put my birdie attempt?
just put it next to the hole, tap in. And Lee says, well, you swear. And he starts giving out this ruling. And he's going, well, you'd probably have to drop it over here.
No closer to the
hole. And I was like, all for the integrity of the game. And we'd called him out, and as soon as he said it, he just started shaking his head like a little boy because he knew he'd been caught with his hand in the cookie jar because he knew that
no closer to the hole.
This moment would happen right now because I didn't even have to bring the green book out.
It was a gem, Lee. I loved it. So during that week as well, there was a lot of like interesting. You always meet somebody new that year, and chances are in that business, in the insurance business, you're going to meet a gem. And I met a couple of gems. Mm-hmm. Those guys like to party, have a good time. I met a guy I was with a couple days, Frank Gainey. I'm going to give him a shout out later. We had a lot of fun. He has a normal caddy he uses, but this other guy, David Guest, and he's you could tell he listens. We've talked about people who say they listen to the podcast and don't, but he listens. You could tell he listens to all the podcasts. Yeah. And he's been to some places and done some things and seen some things. And he was telling me a couple stories about his buddies. And he just texted me the other day because he was going right from here to Bandon Dunes. And he texted me, he said, Zabbo, you're never going to believe it. 12 hours in and we got a dead body story. He's like, I'll fill you in later. No. I'm like, here we go. But anyways, so he's telling me a story. And you wonder how much of it is true, but I'm going to tell it like he told it. And we're going to have Ping Ping, the guy involved in the story, come on and tell it too. Because I want to hear his version.
Sorry.
Ping Ping.
Ping Ping.
And not like you think. He's a guy from Oklahoma. He's not Asian. Doesn't involve an Asian person though. Oh, this is unbelievable. So they're down at the Greenbrier, and I've never been to the Greenbrier. But I guess there's a casino nearby, or maybe a casino on the property.
There's a tournament in the PGA Tour.
Yeah. That's what they're there for. So they're there
North
at the
Carolina?
Greenbrier. I think so, yeah. But regardless, they're at the casino. There's a big table of blackjack going on. Ping Ping sitting at the table. There's Ping Ping. There's an Asian lady.
I'm stuck.
Some other dude. and a doctor. They're sitting at the table, so there's 4 players and the dealer. All of a sudden, other dude drops down on the ground. Heart stops. Doctor gets up. Of course, the doctor gets up, wants to help the guy, revive him, checks the pulse, no pulse, chest compression, CPR. He's working on it. Everybody's looking around. The dealer goes, place your bets. The lady's like, what are you talking about, place your bets? This guy's dying over here. We're not placing our bets. 10 minutes of CPR. The for whatever reason, there was no ambulance there yet. The doctor declares him dead, says,
no,
I'm sorry, he's expired, he's done, he's dead.
Well, he had to go back and play his game.
Exactly. There was blackjack to be played.
He's splitting 2 kings.
But no, so the dealer again goes, place your bets. And the Asian lady goes, no guy's dying on my watch. She jumps out of her chair, 2 fists overhead, slams him in the chest. The guy gasps and sits up. The guy is alive.
Wow.
The doctor was doing CPR for 10 minutes, couldn't revive him. This lady, 1 chop to the chest, revives him. Paramedics show up, put the oxygen mask, put him on the stretcher, wheel him out. They see him the next day in the spa getting a massage.
Incredible.
The guy lived. The doctor declared him dead, and the guy lived.
What kind of doctor? Was
Good
he
question.
like Dr. Chris from LA that you met?
That's another story.
By the way, Greenbriers in West Virginia. Before anyone starts emailing us in or knocking us, yes, it's not North Carolina.
I didn't know. But
West Virginia.
it sounds like so far-fetched and made up, but he's like, I swear this happened. I was there for it. I wasn't sitting at the table. I'm like, well, you're coming on because he had a handful of other stories that we'll let him tell himself. But we need Ping Ping on here, too, to get Ping Ping. I was
Oklahoma.
Like, from Oklahoma, and he's not Asian.
That's gold.
Yeah.
That's gold. We did meet a doctor this week, though, didn't we?
We sure did. As a matter of fact, it was in that same group.
The balls in someone to put doctor on your name tag. And Zabbo said to me, he goes, yeah, who do you think he's a doctor of?
We were walking down the 6 hole, and you see this very rarely, but you do see it, and there's a doctor on his tag, and I think it was a country club that most listeners would recognize. And I look at G, and I look down at the tag, and I'm like, I bet I could get G to do this. I'm like, hey, G. I was like, I bet you won't ask him. You see this? It says doctor. I bet you won't ask him what he's a doctor of. He's like, hey, hey, what are you a doctor of? It says it right here on your tag. What are you a doctor of?
I think you asked me to ask him what medical school he went to.
Yes, I did. I said, exactly. I said, ask him what medical school he went to, and that's what you did.
Yeah.
He said, what medical school? He's like, well, I didn't. It's like, well, what are you a doctor of?
Yeah.
And what did he say?
He said, well, he actually looked, he'd been caught out. You know what I mean? He's getting caught out by deadbeat caddies on his nickname. Because he's obviously at the club, he's known as
Doc.
Hey, Doc. And he says, I'm actually the doctor of fun.
Not a lot of fun there.
There wasn't a lot of fun there, was it? It's an interesting, that whole group that comes in, we had similar experiences with this. There's some really top lads. Mm-hmm. And then you get paired with your man, and then you just take with whatever comes your way. Mm-hmm. And it was really interesting that the guy I have, CEO Scott, absolute top lad.
He is,
right?
yeah. He was with us one day, yeah.
You really couldn't get a better walking loop than Scott. You know, he grabs clubs, he puts them back in the bag.
Proactive,
He'll even clean. If you're not there, he'll clean them. He'll carry his own bag.
These are all the things G is looking for in a player. Somebody that does his job for him.
Says the guy that rides an Ellwee.
Hey.
Okay.
True. Touche.
Know your place. Simple information. Never complains. And then the other guy I get, he is leaving clubs next to the bag. The constant comments about each shot. He's a 24 handicap. I don't need an autopsy of every bad shot you hit.
Yes, there's going to be more to come.
And the 4 or 5 that he actually did hit well, he still wasn't happy with them. And he just wouldn't quit. You know what I mean? Like, how many do you need to hit? Like, if you were playing a bounce game, you would never 6-putt. You'd never get to that point.
Oh, yeah. I'd swipe it. You know,
3 putts and done.
I would have made my 2-footer 5. They would have told me to pick it up. We know the type. There's a lot of them out there just like that. I caddy for them every week.
You know, guys, caddies don't want to hear a breakdown of every golf shot of why it didn't work. Or, you know, we see it. We were there. We're watching it. But it's amazing that you do upper management. The upper management, they're there for a reason. I almost feel as if you could see that, CEO material and top tier
For
material.
sure.
You can see the difference in personality and how they play golf, and then
you can tell the brokers from management for sure. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's
you're a broker. Yeah, shocking. Yeah,
snake oil salesman. Okay, yeah, that makes sense now. Yeah, it's just there's something about them, but yeah, I do blame Lee for your demise in putting.
It wasn't your fault, Lee. I should have. That was the last day of the job that I told Lee in advance I was going to bail on him to play in it, but in hindsight, should have caddied for you, Lee. It would have been much better. Sorry.
Is there anything else you want to knock out before we move on to the second half, Zabbo?
As a matter of fact, I got to mention there was a loop during that week with Lee at the same round that Lee had his magic round.
Mm-hmm. Magic. Can we just discuss this?
Yes, we can.
What did he shoot?
He shot 74.
And what did I ask?
Was it legit?
Yeah. And then
what did I say?
You said yes, and then I said, "Well, were there any mulligans?" And you went, "Well, there was one." I
said legitimately, and this is 100% true. That particular day, he did hole everything out. The 17 disclaimer. But anyways, on 17 they all hit it terribly, and they all took mulligans. So it was, and then he made 5 on his next ball, which would have been 7. So if you add those two shots, he shot 76. Yeah, so I'll give him a legit 76. Anyways, we were paired with a guy, James Drinkwater, in that group. Played out here a number of years.
I bet he doesn't drink water.
Actually, he did. He wasn't tying them on like most guys, but anyway, so he a lot of times people are fascinated with our caddying abilities, and here we go. Gord gave me luck. He's like, here we go again, Zabbo. You're gonna laud how great of a caddy you are. Yeah. But no, it's just the nature of like, wow, that was amazing, like amazing. And we're on the first hole, and I'm telling him like he just got these clubs and didn't know how far he hit them, and I could see his swing speed on one, so I had a general idea how far his 8-iron's gonna go. And I'm like, here, he's like, no, normally I hit this and I hit that. I'm like, no, this is the right club for this shot. Just trust me, hit it. And he hit it to like 10 feet, made the putt. And he's like, wow, I saw the putt breaking the other way. And he was legitimately a 24. That's what he was getting. He was getting 24 shots or something like that. And he made like 4 birdies that day. It was crazy. And he had so much fun and was so appreciative. It's fun when you get players like that who really appreciate your caddying for them. And he had a great time. And it was
only one way to show your appreciation to a caddy, though.
Oh, he did too. He did.
There you go. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Well done there, Drinkwater. Good lad.
Yes, and we look forward to seeing you again, James. That was a lot of fun. And he has listened to the podcast, and he said he was talking about the Scottish guy, and I'm like, oh, so you don't really listen to the podcast, but yeah, because he's like, oh yeah, now I recognize your voice. He's like, you do the podcast. I'm like, yeah, you haven't listened to it in a while.
Yeah, one episode out of 136, but that is a good point. There are 136 previous episodes, so if you're new to the podcast, definitely go back and check them out. We're going to take a short break now, and we'll be back with mailbag questions and some shout-outs. 4! Zabbo and I were just putting the world straight there in the break.
That was, you guys don't get the benefit of seeing how long some of these breaks are, but yes, we were in a heated discussion about what's going on in our country and world, to be
that was longer than normal.
Yes.
I want to start off with something lighthearted. And a few episodes ago, I'd mentioned how there's a new feature in podcasting. It's called fan mail.
Oh, have we gotten quite a bit more?
We do. I'm going to pick out a few here.
Nice. Let's hear them all.
This is from a Mike. Oh no, sorry. This is Mike. This is Cole Shane from Elk Grove Village, Illinois.
Love you, Cole. I'm glad you're listening.
Thank you very much for the shout out. My dad and I can't thank you enough for helping make our time out there enjoyable.
That warms my heart. They were 2 great dudes. Awesome. Look forward to seeing you guys again.
We have another one here from Encinitas, California. Love the pod. Zabbo is the daiquiri deck still in Siesta Key.
This is like Macan with you. Did say that again? The what? The
daiquiri deck.
Daiquiri deck in Siesta Key. The daiquiri. Have you never had a daiquiri, dude? We're going to the bar after this. It's 7:00 in the morning, but we're going to the bar for a daiquiri.
Actually, Chris Hilo Hislop, he texted me, he laughing. He was born in Macon, and he thought it was
Making.
Rather amusing. Making. What do I call it? Making. Making. Still making the mistake.
That's hilarious.
Sorry, people of Georgia.
Actually, my mother-in-law corrected you on the Tex. What was the Texas one you said a couple of weeks ago? But you pronounced that wrong too.
I pronounce everything wrong. Like, let's be honest. No one's perfect, are they? And another one, Stamford, Connecticut. Mike Zabbo is the best. A big fan with a love heart. Zabbo, you've just been telling everyone.
You know who that is? That's so funny because that's 100% my wife. I love you, Marianne. That's where she moved from. She moved from Stamford, Connecticut. I'm sure that was her trying to disguise who she was.
There you go.
That's funny.
Long Branch, New Jersey. Boys, great podcast. Consistently funny, entertaining. Proving it's a small world from the description of your customers. I have the same. Customers. Not sure I'd call them customers, but...
You wouldn't call them customers? You wouldn't call them clients? They're just people
golfers.
We caddy for. Yeah.
Golfers and regulars. So if you want to send us in some fan mail, in the podcast notes, Spotify, Apple, pretty much any platform that you use, up the top, there'll be a link that says send us a text. Now, if you want your name on there, you got to put your name because all we get is the last 4 digits of your phone number and where you're from. So we can't actually... Somebody asked us for a request. I'd love to know who that was. Remember last time they were saying,
so I'm going to be here July 2nd, and it was already like July 10th when we got it. Yeah,
that's it. And we don't have names. We only get the last 4 digits. And as I said before the break, there's 136 previous episodes. Please get out and have a listen if you haven't listened to them all. Rate and review, always good. I just like to hear from people. That's what I like.
Yeah, it's nice. I like the good ones and the bad ones.
Sometimes
throw some hate your way.
Yeah, sometimes you think you're maybe just talking to yourself.
Exactly.
But there's a lot of people listening. Make sure get in contact. Send us in your questions. podcast@glorifieddonkey.com if you don't want to send in a text. That takes us on to some questions.
Let's have them. Love the mailbag questions.
This is from a Rachel in Minneapolis.
Okay.
You ever been to Minneapolis?
I have not, no.
Very cold, apparently, in the winter.
It is.
What is your favourite club in your golf bag? Not your putter, Zabbo, that's for sure.
Well, it's just that one hole I really struggled with. Actually, it was a handful. But no, my favorite club is probably my 56-degree artisan wedge. Thank you, Bill McCadden.
The one with your name on it?
Yes, that's the one.
Have we ever discussed how you have your own name on your wedge?
That's just because if I lose them, they know who they belong to, yes. A lot of people have their names on their clubs. Maybe they're not stamped on the actual head and they're on their little label on their grip. But yes.
What's the difference between having your name on your wedge and your name in your bag?
About $250.
Hey, don't deflect the question.
It's a good question. I don't know. I just think you're more of a douche if you have it on your bag, personally. I mean, I can see it on your wedge, but on your bag, come on. Moving along.
My favorite club is probably the driver.
I was going to say it has to be for you as long as you hit driver.
It.
The big dog, Big G can hit it far.
If it's going, it's going.
Yeah.
But
sometimes it's gone.
It's not ideal from bunker, but yeah, that would be mine. Next question, Patrick, and he's from Salinas, close by. What do you think of PXG clubs? And part 2, and the golfers who use them.
Why are you laughing at the end of that?
Well, I think there's a thing about, it's like people who drive sports cars.
Yeah.
The jealousy of people that don't have the sports car always say that they're
true.
The guy's trying to make up for it.
Well, full disclosure, I do play PXG.
Go figure.
Now, I did not buy them for $4,000 or $5,000. I got them on eBay, the Gen 1s, 7 years after they came out. So I got them for $500-$600 for a set of them. I love them. The Gen 1s, I love them. I have the ability to hit them well. I did not show that last week, but yeah, I like them. They're fun clubs, and people who play them, I think a lot of it is the flash factor. It's the people who like the flashy things, and they like to show it off. So yeah, it's part of where we work for sure. We see PXG clubs all the time. We see the brand new Gen 5s, whatever, the newest model out. People buy the new set every year when they come out, just to be the guy with the new set of PXGs.
Yeah. What do I think of PXG clubs? I think they're a ripoff. Number one. I don't think there's any golf club. It's not the Arrow. It's 100% the Indian.
Agreed.
I think every golf company in the world should thank PXG because that's the reason that clubs have doubled in price.
Correct. Yeah.
In the last 10 to 15 years.
They were smart. They realized there was a market for it, and they said, we're going to build clubs that aren't going to cost us a fortune to make, but we can charge a fortune, and people want to pay more money, and they think it's going to be a superior product if we charge more money for it, and they were right.
You get a bunch of swag with it, hats and iron covers, and I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff you get, shirts and stuff. So
that drives me a little more nuts when you see them with the PXG hats and the gloves, and it's like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
And then now they have the PXG balls. It's like, come on.
Well, I think what he did was the big mistake that the company made was when you price your product at such a extortionate rate, you discount about 98% of the population.
He was okay with that.
Well, he was until they started making
the 0211s. Yeah.
So he realized that I can only attract 2% of the population of golfers. So now when you look at the two, the expensive one compared to the cheaper one, I don't really see a massive difference.
No, if you were to go out and play them, your score would not vary hardly at all.
It wouldn't
at all.
vary.
Yeah.
So I think you then lead yourself. The people that are buying the really expensive ones might go, well, why was I paying this before? And now
some of them,
you've made a carbon copy basically, and you're charging a tenth of the price or whatever that is. So I think they're solid. They're a solid club.
Good clubs, yeah.
But I wouldn't use them. I have no interest in that. I would actually stick to the Strixons or the Japanese made, because I think they are
the Honma Bears, or you get those $40,000-$50,000 set of Bears. No,
yeah, there you go. What was it like $40,000 for the driver?
Yeah.
What do I think of golfers who use them? I think they're pathetic.
Pathetic.
Yeah,
they're terrible.
Like
they're
caddy,
hacks.
like their caddy, their chops. No, listen, each their own. I don't judge. Do what you want. Not for me, but I do think they have their pros and cons. Our next question, and this comes from a Dan Saitik, or Kaitik. I'm sure I've pronounced that wrongly.
I'm sure he has. Yeah.
He's from Sydney, Australia. And just so you know, folks, this question, Dan sent a question on Instagram while I was watching the Open this last weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was going through emails, I was going through text messages, I was going through Instagram, I was going through Twitter. There's people contact us in all different. So you can contact us in all the social media platforms. Just look out for Glorified Donkey, or also on YouTube. But he'd sent a message about, I think it said 47 weeks ago. I was just going through.
Hope you're still listening, Dan.
I said, did I ever use this question? He says, no, maybe in the next one. So it was a very, very simple question. Caddy or caddy? So how do you spell it? C-A-D-D-Y or C-A-D-D-I-E?
I'd say any caddy that I've seen, myself included, would spell it I-E at the end. I see it spelled every which way, but I've never seen a caddy spell it C-A-D-D-Y. So he's C-A-D-D-I-E.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's Caddyshack spelled?
C-A-D-D-Y.
I think so, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I can picture the poster in my mind, yeah.
Myself and Zabbo, very much on the same wavelength there. We would spell it.
Rare opportunity for us to be on the same page.
So there you go. C-A-D-D-I-E. However, you can spell it however you want. Last one, it's more of a story. This comes from a Jason Bonardi from Hunt Valley in Maryland. Did I say that one? Pronounce that correctly?
You did, actually.
Hunt Valley, not too difficult. He says, we're playing the wee course on Wednesday, July 27th. This is last year. So again, this is like an old story.
This was last year?
Yeah, well, we're only in there, but we're not that it's July 27th yet. We had a 140 tee-off time. Jason was the caddy for me, also named Jason. Yes, we got that. And Dave. The other two guys were locals who were walking with pool carts. We were rolling along and arrived at the par 3 fifth hole, which was playing 156 yards from the goals. Dave, the subject of this story, hit last and smother hooked his ball into the crap. Jason recommended he hit a provisional, and he teed it up and hit a beautiful high draw, which is rare because he is a legit 23 handicap. I love how he puts that in brackets. You know what I mean?
Just to full disclaimer.
I bring you down a notch or two, Dave. So he hits a high draw that sails right at the pin, hitting it square in the middle and dropped stone dead in the cup for a 3. Nightmare. Now, that alone is not that crazy of a story. It gets better. We all heard it hit the pin. No one could see it on the green. There's no way it's in. He's a 25. I thought he was a 23. Yeah, tell you what, he was a 23 1 minute, 25 the
He
next.
tells it now, and he's like a 33 handicap, maybe 34.
We all look at him, and he just says, yeah, pretty sure it went in. He was nonchalant as he could be, which is really a priceless reaction. We talked about it all the way to the green, but he was wondering if he could find his first ball. I was like...
It was the pinnacle. It was my favorite ball.
I was like, dude, you just dunked it for a 3. Jason took some video, and of course, we let him go up to the pin and get it out. Oh, and one other thing, I made my birdie putt from about 25 feet, just off the green to the left, so he dunked it and still lost the hole.
Way to one-up him there, Jason.
Dave, you need to get some new friends. Unbelievable.
Pretty crazy, Dave, yeah. No big deal. Made a 3. That's pretty amazing.
We can segue from that onto the situation at the Open this past week.
We're talking about Fitzpatrick?
No.
No.
Lowry.
We're talking about McIntyre.
Lowry.
Oh, Larry, I thought we were talking about the Scottish Open when McIntyre took that drop.
Well, a drop's a drop, isn't it? What do you think? Actually,
He was standing on a sprinkler head, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to see that sprinkler head under 3 feet of grass, but
He felt it with his studs, apparently. When I watched that, I genuinely thought it was that he took a swipe at it. Why would you swing so hard at a ball that close with such long grass? You would surely disturb the ball. That was my initial thought. Mm-hmm. And if I had money on Adam Scott, or I was Adam Scott, who ended up finishing second, I think
he was pretty heated in that scoring 10.
Yeah, that wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
So he did get a rules official, and he got a drop. You could say that he was unfortunate to end up in that amount of rough in the first place, because it was so bare. There. But he ends up hitting it to 10 feet.
Makes an eagle.
Makes it for eagle, ends up winning the tournament. This past week, though,
Lowry.
The Open, Lowry, he hit a provisional, and he stiffed it, and he then said, we'll stuff the first ball, but then a spectator found it.
Gotta play it.
And he had to play it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the way that Lowry speaks to people. I think he has this, he's a bit like Bubba Watson from 7-8 years ago, where the media portray him as this, big happy chappy.
Yeah, he's not.
But he's not. He's horrible.
Not, yeah.
And the worst thing about it was, I always have a bet on the majors. Guess who I had my money on this?
This is the worst thing about it. The worst thing about it is Gordon's money.
I can't stand Lowry. I never have. The way he spoke to the Ryder Cup volunteer, was it last year?
Yeah.
Was the Ryder Cup last year?
Yeah.
Right. The way he spoke to him, the way he continually speaks to cameramen, the way he speaks to
the way he spoke to the
fans.
medium during this tournament, as far as the setup of the course.
Oh, I want the tees forward. Well, the wind switched.
Yeah, and every single player's playing it. Get out of here.
So I was very excited, because it was a nice windfall if he'd won. It was like watching a slow car crash on Saturday. But to cheer for someone that you really dislike was kind of, it split me in, the first place, and then he ends up doing what he did. Now, I had him to finish in the top 8, so I won some money on him. But
there you go.
It pains me to pull for somebody that I don't even like.
Well, don't put your money on him then.
But again, it just comes back to the game of golf and how they don't call people out on their behavior.
It is unsettling, yeah. They don't call anybody out. But we're happy to come. Oh, yeah. I'll still call out Patrick Cheater.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch any of the Open, or
no? Not
too
at all.
busy?
Not at all.
No interest?
Well, interest, but it just doesn't fit in well with my schedule. I've been working early every day, and it's on early over here, so I get up, go to work, and by the time I got home, it was over every day.
Okay. Need to move on to shout-out, Zabbo.
Got to shout out that whole group, the insurance group for the week. Lee, got to shout you out. Lee Sostrom, good to have you listening. Good to have you back in town. Look forward to next
Is Lee
year.
one of the worst putters you've ever seen?
No.
No?
Well,
you've seen worse.
No, Lee's on the road to recovery. He's got a new putter, and he's trending.
That's not the question, Zabbo.
No, he is not the worst. I've seen way worse putters. Way worse putters.
Yourself?
Yeah, I'd put myself up there on the list, but yeah. It was just one bad hole. One bad hole.
There's a really good joke about that, by the way.
There is, yes, but we're not going to tell it on this podcast. James Drinkwater, got a shout at him. David Guest, one of the most classic stories I've ever heard. We're going to have you on at some point, and certainly Ping Ping.
David, send us an email, podcast@glorifieddonkey.com, or get in contact, because we would love to maybe have you on, tell some of the stories. I'd love to hear the story about Ping Ping.
Ping Ping, you're coming on, buddy. I mean, you're gonna be on, and we got to hear the dead body story too.
Oh man,
I can't wait to hear this. And Frank Gainey, got to shout out Frank Frank, it was good to have you for a few rounds. Look forward to seeing you next year, too.
I had a message here. Hey, fellow loopers, I love your podcast. I am a looper at the Ritz in Sarasota, where Pro Zabbo comes from.
No way. No, we got a Ritz Sarasota looper listening.
I work for the Mike Dutzis.
One of the greatest caddy managers all time.
Did I pronounce that correctly? Dutzis?
As a matter of fact, you did.
Well done. I live in Lakewood Ranch full-time and would be glad to host you if you come in for the Pro Stroke event.
Pop stroke.
Stroke event, sorry. Pop Stroke event on August the 4th, 2024. May all your putts fall, and that's from my coach, Dave.
Wow. That's awesome. I can't believe that. I'm happy. That warms my heart. You need to have Dutzis call me. Dutzis, I've called Dutzis. I've talked to him a number of times since I've left, but it's time for Dutzis to call me. You tell Mike Dutzis to get on the wire.
Get on the blower.
Yeah, it's been too long, Mike. And I missed the Ritz in Sarasota. It's a fun place.
We got Steve Baltz. He is from Palos Verdes, and he was in contact because he was asking questions about what the Wii course is, etc. But he was out here and he played in a thing called the Copy Cup.
Nice. We both caddy in that.
No, one day I did it. I'll never do it again. It was a horrific experience from people from Los Angeles. So
I got a good group from down south, actually, that I caddy for in that.
Yeah, they had about as much fun as I did, which was zero. So I'll never do the Copy Cup. But hey, Steve, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. And also Kevin Schuler. Kevin was a guy I've known for several years. I caddied for him a few months back, and he was asking about what clubs. I didn't tell him to get PXGs. I said, buy some Strixon just like the Big G has. His scores, he sent me a picture. I know nobody cares about your golf apart from you, but he did send me a screenshot. He didn't break down what he did from the first hole, all the way through.
Yeah.
He just showed me his scores in the last 3 months, and his handicaps come down about 3 or 4. He says it's all about the clubs. So that's what that's usually what happens when you go from hickory shafts to modern day clubs.
Come into the 21st century. We also got to shout out Chris Felix, and actually Chris Felix's parents. They bought us some beers.
Tim and PK.
Shout out to you. Thanks for buying us some beers.
If you are interested in supporting us, you can go to the website glorifieddonkey.com or our Twitter, and you can follow the link to buy us a beer. And that'd be very much appreciated. And also with the iOS Apple update, the last one they did, a lot of people are not being notified when a new episode comes out.
Yeah, they're not getting the alerts and the emails.
Yeah, I think you have to go onto the actual podcast on Apple, unsubscribe, and then or unfollow and then refollow or something. It's be aware.
Please do that.
Be aware of that for our podcast and also for any other podcasts that you listen to, because that's something that has changed over the last 6 months. So that brings us to the end of another episode, Zabbo. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You going to go off and practice your putting?
No, actually, I've given up the game for a couple weeks.
How close are you to doing that? Because I said to you, you either have to play more golf or you're done.
No, I'm going to play more golf. I mean, I'm going to still hit balls. I think that is an important part of getting better, but I'm not giving it up. I know how to play the game. It just, I need to play more golf. I need to get out there and score. I just hitting balls is not going to work.
No.
Would you stop it with that smirk? Get out of here.
I think you should work personally. But anyway, thank you for your time. Have a great day. To our listeners, thanks for listening. Get out there, enjoy your golf, but more importantly,
keep it humble.